She entered the first-class cabin clad in a dark gray sweatshirt and sweatpants, only to be met with humiliation and ultimately compelled to depart. Unbeknownst to them, her billionaire husband was the owner of the entire airline, and the events that unfolded next rendered everyone utterly speechless. The morning sun poured in through the large windows of Denver International Airport as Olivia Bennet navigated the lively terminal. At 34, she exuded a calm assurance, her blonde hair neatly hidden beneath a black cap, her athletic build clad in a cozy dark gray sweatshirt and light gray sweatpants. On her wrist, a simple silver bracelet served as her sole adornment. To the untrained eye, she appeared as just another passenger choosing ease over elegance for an extended journey. It was hard to believe that she was the wife of Alexander Bennett, the billionaire tech innovator who had just taken over Summit Airlines as a key piece of his expanding transportation empire. Olivia glanced at her watch, a humble timepiece that had been passed down from her grandmother. She had ample time before the boarding process commenced for Flight 782 to Boston, where her parents were marking their 40th wedding anniversary. Alexander had extended the invitation for their private jet, yet Olivia chose to fly commercial from time to time. It maintained her link to reality in ways that affluence frequently shielded others from. "Just a regular black coffee, please," she said to the barista at the terminal cafe, rummaging through her pocket for cash instead of reaching for the platinum card nestled in her phone case. A smile spread across the face of the young man at the counter. "Are you off to a lovely destination?" "Boston. Family celebration," Olivia said, as she dropped her change into the tip jar. "Wishing you a wonderful journey ahead." With a cup of coffee cradled in her hand, Olivia strolled towards Gate A22. She observed the families gathered, with elderly couples clasping hands and business travelers engrossed in their laptops. This rich mosaic of human experience captivated her, likely due to her upbringing in a humble home in rural Colorado, prior to encountering Alexander at a tech conference where she showcased her environmental research. "We are now inviting our first-class passengers to board Summit Airlines Flight 782 to Boston," the gate agent announced. Olivia picked up her modest carry-on, a trusty backpack instead of flashy designer bags, and stepped into the brief queue at the priority boarding lane. A businessman clad in a tailored suit cast a brief look at her relaxed outfit, then performed a discreet double take. Olivia had grown accustomed to these glances. They ceased to trouble her. "Boarding pass, please," the gate agent requested, her smile expertly maintained. Olivia presented her phone, showcasing the digital boarding pass. The agent scanned it, and her smile wavered just a bit as she glanced between the first-class designation and Olivia's laid-back look. "Thank you, Ms. Bennett. Wishing you a pleasant journey through the skies." Olivia nodded and strolled down the jet bridge, oblivious to the fact that her choice to dress for comfort would soon spark a whirlwind that would alter the course of Summit Airlines for good. The first-class cabin of Summit Airlines, Flight 782, radiated opulence. Spacious leather seats in a rich navy hue, gleaming with details, an attentive cabin crew offering champagne before takeoff. As Olivia boarded, flight attendant Diane Phillips glanced up, her well-rehearsed smile faltering momentarily at the sight of the casually dressed woman. "Good morning," Olivia greeted with a friendly smile, her eyes flickering to her boarding pass. "Window seat 2A. Diane's meticulously drawn eyebrows arched ever so slightly. "First class is to your left," she said, her voice laced with uncertainty. "Indeed, I am aware. Thanks a lot." Olivia strode purposefully to her designated seat, fully conscious of Diane's gaze tracking her movements. The first-class cabin was partially occupied by travelers who conformed to the anticipated archetype. Men clad in sharp business suits, a woman adorned in an elegant dress, and a celebrity chef that Olivia recognized from her television screen. She tucked her backpack away in the overhead compartment and nestled into her seat, retrieving a well-worn paperback instead of the newest gadget. "Pardon me." A male flight attendant named Richard approached her, his voice steady yet commanding. "Could I please take a look at your boarding pass?" Olivia raised her eyes, locking onto his doubtful stare. "Absolutely." She retrieved the digital pass on her phone once more. Richard examined it more intently than required, shifting his gaze between the screen and Olivia's relaxed outfit. Just a moment, please. She observed him engaging in conversation with Diane at the front of the cabin, both casting furtive looks her way. The businessman seated across the aisle feigned indifference, yet his focus was unmistakable. Olivia inhaled deeply, sensing the all-too-familiar signs of scrutiny beginning to take shape. Diane walked over, now joined by the head flight attendant, Caroline, whose name badge revealed her position of authority. "Ma'am," Caroline began, her voice expertly controlled yet detached. "It appears there is a bit of misunderstanding regarding your boarding pass." Olivia placed her book aside. Clarity reigns supreme. "I find myself in seat 2A, enjoying the comforts of first class." Caroline's smile grew rigid. "At times, our system may encounter mistakes. This is a premium cabin and... So you believe I don't belong here?" Olivia concluded, her tone steady yet assertive. "Are you implying that?" A brief shadow of unease passed over Caroline's expression. "Not in the slightest. We just need to confirm." Olivia noted that my boarding pass had already been verified twice. "This clearly indicates that I have been assigned to this seat." At this point, the other first-class passengers were observing the interaction with open curiosity. Richard lingered close, arms folded, his demeanor indicating familiarity with the scenario and an understanding of its inevitable conclusion. Diane proposed the idea of an accidental upgrade, her tone revealing just how improbable she found this notion. "Maybe I bought a first-class ticket," Olivia replied. "Is there a specific dress code for this cabin that I might not know about?" Caroline's polished facade faltered just a bit. "While there isn't a formal dress code, our first-class passengers generally choose to dress in a way that embodies the premium experience we offer." Olivia's voice held a calm consistency. "It's not the ticket I bought that matters, but the way I present myself." An esteemed elder gentleman seated across the aisle cleared his throat. "I've traveled in sweatpants in first class on numerous occasions. No one has ever challenged my presence in this space." Caroline's cheeks turned a deep shade of crimson. "This matter is solely between our team and the passenger." "It absolutely shouldn't be happening," he responded. Before turning his attention back to his newspaper, Diane inched nearer to Caroline, murmuring softly. Caroline acknowledged with a nod and redirected her attention to Olivia. "Excuse me, we have a completely booked flight today, and it's essential that all passengers are seated in their designated places. This seat is indicated to be filled by an O. Bennett." "Indeed," Olivia remarked. "Olivia Bennett. Do you have identification to verify that?" Richard asked, his tone implying he believed she was being dishonest. Olivia held her ground, even as her patience began to fray. "No other passenger has ever been asked to verify their identity once on board. The gate agent confirmed my boarding pass. It's the usual protocol when there are inconsistencies," Caroline asserted. "What inconsistencies?" "In addition to my unconventional attire, the atmosphere in the cabin was thick with tension. Other passengers fidgeted restlessly in their seats. A woman leaned in to her friend, her voice just audible enough for Olivia to catch the words. "If she purchased the ticket, what's the issue?" Caroline's expression grew steely. "Madam, should you be unable to confirm your identity, we will have to assign you to an economy seat." Olivia adjusted her posture. "I can confirm who I am, yet it feels unnecessary. None of the others in this cabin have been requested to do so." "Ms. Bennett, if that is indeed your identity," Richard remarked with a hint of disdain, "we are merely adhering to established procedures." "No," Olivia responded with conviction. "You are adhering to your preconceived notions. Had I adorned myself with pearls and donned a designer ensemble, this dialogue would not be taking place." Caroline's polished demeanor disappeared completely. "This situation is becoming quite problematic. Please provide identification, or we will have to relocate you to economy class." Olivia felt the gaze of her fellow travelers upon her, some filled with compassion, others observing with a sense of detached amusement, as the familiar drama of air travel played out around them. She had the power to resolve this in a heartbeat by disclosing her husband's identity, yet that was not the way Olivia approached life. She had never invoked Alexander's name to secure benefits or preferential treatment. Olivia expressed her thoughts with clarity, stating that this is discrimination. I acquired this ticket just like all the others. Ma'am, Caroline's tone became icy. It's time to finalize the boarding process. You have the choice to confirm your identity, switch to economy class, or exit the aircraft. The unfairness of the situation stung, yet Olivia understood the untenable position she found herself in. Creating a disturbance would merely prolong the journey for all passengers. All right, she replied at last. I will proceed, but I require your names and employee numbers first. This is far from finished. Richard wore a subtle smirk. We will secure you a seat in economy class and offer compensation for the fare difference. I don't want compensation, Olivia said, as she collected her backpack. I seek responsibility. As she stood, she caught the compassionate looks from some passengers, while others deliberately turned their gaze away. The elderly man who had voiced his opinion earlier shook his head in disapproval. Diane guided Olivia through the premium cabin, the escort feeling more like a dismissal as they made their way to economy. Business class passengers observed with intrigue as she walked by, their quiet murmurs trailing behind her. Olivia maintained her composure, determined not to reveal the extent of the pain the humiliation inflicted. Here you are, Diane said, motioning toward a middle seat in the economy section. We sincerely regret any disruption this may have caused. Olivia gazed directly into her eyes. Not at the moment, but that could change in the near future. If this tale has piqued your interest, be sure to subscribe to our channel for more compelling narratives that uncover the surprising turns of life and justice. Now, let us revisit the unfolding story of Olivia and discover what lies ahead. The next morning broke with a brilliant light over the Summit Airlines corporate headquarters in Denver. The glass and steel structure mirrored the mountainous scenery, serving as an architectural declaration of the company's elite status within the airline sector. In the executive suite, Chief Customer Officer Patricia Winters examined the day's agenda, her anxiety mounting with each passing moment. The quarterly review of customer experience is set for 10 a.m., and the figures were not encouraging. There was an 11% rise in passenger complaints compared to the previous quarter, with concerns about staff attitude leading the way. Her assistant reminded her that the board members would be present, and Mr. Bennett has confirmed his attendance in person instead of virtually. Patricia felt a knot form in her stomach. Alexander Bennett had taken over Summit Airlines 9 months prior, but today would be his inaugural presence at a quarterly review. His legendary reputation for insisting on excellence was matched only by his scant tolerance for excuses. Patricia instructed that Caroline Reynolds and her first-class cabin crew must be present. They've consistently achieved outstanding customer satisfaction scores, and we should showcase some positive examples to emphasize this success. Meanwhile, across town, Alexander Bennett straightened his tie in the reflection of their expansive penthouse mirror. At 38, he exuded a commanding presence, a hallmark of someone well-versed in the ways of achievement. His fitted navy suit and pristine white shirt conveyed authority without showiness. Are you certain you don't want me to speak directly to the flight attendants? He inquired, observing Olivia's reflection as she perched on the edge of their bed. Olivia dismissed the idea with a shake of her head. This is not a matter of personal vengeance, Alex. It's about transforming a mindset. They brought shame upon my wife, he said, his voice strained with suppressed fury. That's quite intimate for me. Olivia stood and adjusted his tie, even though it was perfectly fine, and I appreciate that, but this situation transcends me and those 3 crew members. This discusses a system that evaluates individuals based on their looks instead of their true nature. Alexander's demeanor softened as he gazed at his wife. Olivia remained steadfast in her humility, even amidst the affluence that enveloped her. It was just one of the many reasons he had found himself captivated by her. She perceived the world through an unfiltered lens, free from the biases of entitlement. Very well, he consented. We'll proceed as you prefer. He glanced at his watch. The meeting is set to commence in 1 hour. Are you certain about the timing? Olivia gave a subtle nod. Without a doubt, and I'll don the same outfit as I did yesterday. The executive conference room at Summit Airlines buzzed with the presence of board members, department heads, and essential staff. Caroline Reynolds, accompanied by Richard and Diane from the first-class cabin crew, gathered together towards the rear. The invitation to attend such a prestigious meeting caught them off guard, yet they speculated it was a reflection of their consistently impressive performance metrics. Perhaps they are at last forming that exceptional service team they've been talking about, Richard murmured to Diane. We would undoubtedly be the best option to take the helm. Diane nodded, adjusting her impeccably pressed uniform with a practiced grace. I've heard that the new owner will be in attendance. This might be a significant chance. Caroline quieted the chatter as Patricia Winters began the meeting. Patricia started, expressing her gratitude for everyone's presence today. As you are aware, the experience of our customers is fundamental to the promise we uphold at Summit Airlines. Today, we will delve into our quarterly performance metrics and explore strategies for enhancement. The atmosphere shifted as the door creaked open, revealing Alexander Bennett stepping inside. With a stature that demanded attention, he exuded a subtle assurance, a reflection of his journey in creating a tech empire from nothing. Mr. Bennett, Patricia remarked, it is a privilege to have you with us today. Alexander acknowledged with a nod and settled into the chair at the head of the table. Kindly proceed. The presentation opened with a series of slides displaying an array of metrics and charts. Patricia emphasized the strengths while thoughtfully addressing the points of concern. Alexander absorbed the words in silence, his face betraying no emotion, as he occasionally jotted down thoughts in a small, leather-bound notebook. Now I want to highlight our bright spots, Patricia said, her voice filled with excitement. Our premium service on transcontinental routes boasts an impressive 92% satisfaction rating, significantly surpassing the industry average. Today we have some members of that team present. She motioned toward Caroline, Richard, and Diane. Alexander regarded them for the first time, his expression betraying no emotion. Indeed, Patricia went on, I've requested Caroline Reynolds, our senior first-class cabin manager, to provide some insights into their approach to exceptional customer service. Caroline stepped forward with assurance, taking her place at the front of the room. Thanks, Patricia. At Summit Airlines, we hold the conviction that the first-class journey commences the instant our passengers board the aircraft. We are skilled at identifying and meeting the expectations of our esteemed travelers who anticipate and merit a specific standard of service. The conference room door creaked open softly. We meticulously focus on each detail, Caroline continued, oblivious to the newcomer. As we engage with our passengers and strive to preserve the exclusive ambience of the first-class cabin, her voice wavered when she realized that Alexander Bennett's focus had drifted elsewhere. Caroline glanced over her shoulder to identify the source of the disruption during her presentation. There, standing just inside, was the woman in the dark gray sweatshirt, light gray sweatpants, and black cap from yesterday's flight. For a brief instant, Caroline found herself unable to comprehend the scene before her. Suddenly, clarity emerged, quickly overshadowed by uncertainty. Richard and Diane shared a look of concern as they both realized the identity of the passenger who had been misplaced the day before. Alexander Bennett rose to his feet. I apologize for the interruption, he said, yet his tone implied a complete lack of remorse. I trust that some of you have already had the pleasure of meeting my wife, Olivia Bennett. The conference room stood still, caught in a moment of disbelief and creeping dread. Caroline stood at the presentation podium, her polished demeanor beginning to falter like fragile glass. Richard and Diane appeared to contract in their seats, their faces losing all semblance of color. Around the table, the executives and board members exchanged glances between Alexander, Olivia, and the flight attendants, attempting to unravel the emerging tension. Your wife, Patricia Winters, finally found her voice, though it was barely above a whisper. Indeed, Alexander affirmed his tone with an air of casualness that was almost misleading. Olivia traveled from Denver to Boston yesterday on our airline, enjoying the comforts of first class. Every word struck with the force of a hammer. Olivia stepped beside her husband, still wearing the very outfit that had rendered her unworthy of the seat she had purchased. The silver bracelet adorning her wrist glimmered in the light, serving as the sole indication of opulence in her appearance. Perhaps, Alexander proposed, Caroline was on the verge of detailing Summit Airline's strategy for acknowledging premium travelers. Kindly proceed. Caroline's lips parted and shut, yet no sound escaped. Her meticulously crafted presentation on first-class service excellence now lay in shambles at her feet. Diane's gaze was locked onto the table, as Richard's earlier smirk morphed into a look of sheer terror. There seems to have been a mix-up, Caroline finally stammered. A misunderstanding, Alexander echoed with contemplation. Fascinating selection of language. Olivia, do you see yesterday's incident as a case of miscommunication? Olivia advanced with purpose. In contrast to her husband, whose restrained fury lurked beneath a polished facade, she emanated a serene determination. What transpired yesterday was not a mere misunderstanding, she declared, her voice resonating throughout the hushed room. It was prejudice manifesting itself. My boarding pass was scrutinized repeatedly, yet it was my appearance that drew the real judgment. Her gaze met Caroline, Richard, and Diane head-on. You determined that I was unworthy of first class, as I didn't fit your preconceived notion of who should be there. You challenged my identity, a scrutiny you reserved for no other traveler. You warned me about being taken off the flight. In the end, you brought me back to economy class, exposing me to the gaze of everyone on the plane. A board member shifted in his seat, clearing his throat with a hint of unease. Mr. Bennett, it might be best if we could have this conversation in private. No, Alexander interjected with conviction. This is exactly what this customer experience meeting needs to focus on. However, let's clarify. I'm not here as a frustrated spouse, although that sentiment does resonate with me. His eyes scanned the space. I stand before you as the owner of this airline, profoundly troubled by a culture that evaluates individuals based on their looks instead of extending equal respect to all customers. Patricia Winters appears deeply affected. Mr. Bennett, I assure you this incident does not align with our company policies. Does it? Olivia chimed in softly. After the incident, I engaged in conversations with various flight attendants and airport personnel, and I was met with a multitude of similar accounts. A young person clad in a hoodie, holding a business class ticket, faced persistent inquiries. A passenger with a disability was thought to be in the incorrect line for priority boarding. An elderly woman dressed casually was turned away from the first-class lounge, even though she possessed a valid access pass. She set a folder down on the conference table. In just the last 3 months, there have been 27 recorded incidents, each adhering to a consistent pattern. This goes beyond just 3 flight attendants. It revolves around a way of life. The revelation struck the room with an undeniable intensity. Patricia extended her hand toward the folder, her fingers quivering with anticipation. I had no idea, she whispered. That is the issue, Alexander remarked. You ought to have been aware. These incidents were documented, yet they were deemed as customer misunderstandings and obscured within your feedback system. Caroline had finally regained her strength to start mending the situation. Mr. and Mrs. Bennett, she started, her tone imbued with a sense of earnest regret. We sincerely apologize for the incident that occurred yesterday on behalf of our team. We are required to adhere to certain protocols concerning verification. Stop, Olivia said, her voice low yet resolute. You still seem to be missing the point. This goes beyond mere protocols. Did you happen to ask for the ID of the businessman in 2C who wore sweatpants in first class last month? When the renowned actress in 1A stepped aboard wearing sunglasses and a baseball cap, did you find yourself questioning her presence in that space? The issue does not lie with the protocol. Its application is selective. Richard, perhaps feeling the weight of his career slipping away, tried to make his voice heard. Mrs. Bennett, we had no means of discerning your identity. That's precisely the point, Olivia responded. Basic dignity should be afforded to everyone, regardless of personal identity. My value as a traveler isn't defined by my relationship status, my financial situation, or my attire. I bought a ticket just like everyone else did. A thick hush enveloped the space as the weight of her words settled in. Alexander gazed at the trio of flight attendants. Your actions yesterday demonstrated a lack of discernment and clear prejudice. In numerous organizations, that would lead to instant dismissal. Caroline, Richard, and Diane appeared to prepare themselves for what was about to unfold. Nevertheless, he went on, terminating your position would not address the underlying issues at a systemic level. It might provide us with a fleeting sense of relief, yet it would leave the core culture intact and unaltered. He faced the audience, ready to speak to everyone present. Beginning next week, Summit Airlines will roll out an extensive training program aimed at addressing bias for all employees who interact with customers. Furthermore, we are enhancing our customer feedback system to focus on identifying and addressing occurrences of perceived discrimination or bias. Olivia moved ahead. She addressed the flight attendants, stating that the three of them would be temporarily reassigned. 1 month collaborating with the customer advocacy team to manage passenger complaints, followed by another month in economy class service. Following that, should your performance evaluations reflect a true grasp of these matters, you may consider reapplying for your top-tier positions. Patricia Winters discovered her unique expression. I will take charge of these adjustments, Mr. and Mrs. Bennett, and I think it's important that we provide compensation to the other passengers mentioned in your report. Alexander acknowledged with a nod, then turned his attention to the flight attendants. This is not a matter of retribution. It revolves around comprehension. The genuine standard of exceptional service lies not in the treatment of those who appear significant. It's about the way you engage with each person, no matter their looks. As the gravity of the situation settled over those gathered, Board Chair Eleanor Simmons finally broke her silence. It is my conviction that we should express our appreciation to Mrs. Bennett, she stated with conviction. She has pinpointed a crucial oversight in our operation that might have persistently harmed our reputation and distanced our customers. This presents a chance for significant transformation. Caroline, Richard, and Diane sat in shocked silence. Their previous assurance crumbled by the awareness of their choices and the unforeseen outcome. Not an instant dismissal, but rather a chance for growth, the possibility to learn and evolve. 3 months later, Olivia Bennett took her place in Seat 2A on Summit Airlines Flight 923, journeying from Denver to San Francisco. Clad in a matching dark gray sweatshirt and light gray sweatpants, topped off with a black cap, she settled in with her book, readying herself for the 5-hour trek to a climate research conference. Good morning, Mrs. Bennett, a voice I recognized said. May I provide you with a drink before we depart? Olivia glanced upward to find Richard positioned next to her seat, exuding professionalism and attentiveness. His eyes reflected a newfound openness, devoid of the condescension that marked their earlier meeting. Instead, there was an unmistakable air of respect. Only water for now, thank you, she responded. As Richard set the water on her armrest, he paused momentarily. Mrs. Bennett, I wonder if you recall our previous encounter. Your name lingers in my memory. Richard. He nodded, recognizing the unlikelihood of being overlooked. He expressed his gratitude in a soft voice. The last 3 months have been quite enlightening. Olivia observed him with a contemplative gaze. What was your experience like in customer advocacy? He acknowledged it with humility. I was completely unaware of the extent to which passengers felt overlooked or criticized by our actions. Ideas I never considered subtle remarks or beliefs. They observed every detail. Typically, that's the case, Olivia responded. As she walked down the aisle, her eyes caught sight of Diane helping an elderly man dressed in casual attire. With a patient and attentive demeanor, she assisted him in placing his well-used duffel bag into the overhead compartment. The change was slight, yet undeniable. The training program you and Mr. Bennett put into action has transformed the situation, Richard continued. It's not solely about the processes. It's about our mindset regarding our passengers and humanity as a whole. I'm pleased to hear that. Richard adjusted himself, resuming his professional composure. Wishing you a pleasant journey, Mrs. Bennett. If you require any help whatsoever, I'm here to support you. As he attended to other passengers, Olivia caught sight of Caroline in the galley, skillfully getting ready for takeoff. Their gazes intertwined for a fleeting moment, and Caroline offered a subtle, courteous nod. Not the overblown submission of someone fearful for their position, but the sincere recognition between individuals who had transcended discord to reach comprehension. The transformations at Summit Airlines reached well beyond just these 3 flight attendants. The anti-bias training initiative was rolled out across the entire company, spanning from check-in counters to executive offices. Customer satisfaction scores were on the rise, and employee morale had seen a boost, as staff felt empowered to extend equal respect to all passengers. More importantly, other airlines had begun to pay attention. Summit's innovative strategy for inclusive customer service was emerging as a benchmark in the industry, questioning traditional beliefs about the appearance and experience of premium service. As the plane ascended to its cruising height, Olivia peered out the window, taking in the quilt-like scenery beneath her. She reflected on how a single instance of injustice had sparked significant transformation, not via retribution or public humiliation, but through the more challenging, enduring journey of education and responsibility. Her phone vibrated, signaling a message from Alexander. "How is the flight going?" She smiled and replied, "Distinct, improved." 2 rows ahead, a young woman in distressed jeans and a retro t-shirt shared a laugh with her companion in the first-class cabin, enjoying the same attentive service as the business executives surrounding them. There were no lingering looks, no hidden remarks, no understated signs that they were out of place. In that moment, Olivia understood that this was the ultimate triumph. It's not about affirming her own journey, but rather the simple, daily respects now offered to those who may have once been misjudged and deemed insufficient. The seat belt sign chimed off. Caroline glided over with the beverage cart, her demeanor a blend of professionalism and warmth, ensuring that each passenger received her attentive service. Upon reaching Olivia, a fleeting moment of true connection unfolded. "Mrs. Bennett," Caroline spoke softly, "I want you to understand that what you and Mr. Bennett accomplished was just even beyond just, and it has truly enhanced our abilities in our roles." Olivia nodded. That was the essence, not retribution, but advancement. Caroline confessed that she has come to view people in a new light, challenging her previous assumptions. "It has transformed my interactions with everyone, not solely those I transport." As Caroline progressed, Olivia contemplated the nature of change, which seldom occurs through bold actions or sweeping declarations, but rather through personal moments of awareness, through frameworks that promote improved decisions, and through leaders ready to tackle not only the symptoms but the underlying issues. The aircraft tilted softly to the west, gliding toward San Francisco, as it transported a rich tapestry of people through the vast expanse of the sky. Every traveler is unique, each one worthy of respect, no matter their looks, position, or situation. A straightforward reality, yet frequently overlooked in a society eager to assess based on surface appearances. For Olivia Bennett, clad in her cozy sweatshirt and cap, the triumph wasn't merely about being able to board a first-class flight without hesitation. The triumph was that gradually so could all others. Narratives such as Olivia's serve as a powerful reminder that genuine transformation arises not from retribution, but from empathy and responsibility. Have you ever been evaluated based on how you look? Have you ever found yourself quickly assessing others without a second thought? We invite you to share your thoughts and experiences in the comments section below. If you found this tale of justice and transformation compelling, be sure to subscribe to our channel for more impactful stories that capture the intricacies of human dignity. Tap the notification bell to stay updated on our weekly tales, and become part of our community of viewers who value the importance of understanding in fostering a more respectful world.